them living, the early church was strong, all right? And they endured a lot of abuse as a body of believers because Christianity was starting out and a lot of people were rejecting it, and they had each other for support and they ran with it. Some of them even knew Jesus personally, or Paul or something, right? And so when they entered into this like environment of so much hardship against them, it's not like they were thriving or very prosperous before. General wealth per capita of human beings in the 21st century has of course increased in comparison to the early church. So many of the early church folk were, tilling on farms. They worked by the sweat of their brow. They milked cows. They baked bread from scratch instead of buying it from a local FMCG. They lived very simple lives. They did not have things to flash. Few individuals owned a horse and a carriage. You had to be super wealthy. For the better part, most people just walked. Most people didn't even own horses. They just walked, and all of their clothes looked the same. They were, just these drapes over their bodies, and so therefore there weren't all these ornate colors. There was not a fashion trend, and there were very clearly marked classes in society where those are the peasants and those are the rich people. That's the king and these are the people on the ground. Very rarely did they ever mix together. Now today you can walk in a mall and there be like a prime minister in the same mall with you, or some CEO of an organization, and like I said, there is bustling industrial activity that has caused mankind to become increasingly materialistic and focus on the very shiny things of this world. So therefore people back then rarely ever wrote one another off based on what they had or lack thereof, because most people just frankly didn't have much anyway. All right, and so Christianity was just rudimentary. It was basic. It was about just like, do I have it? Where am I sleeping? It's like I lament that I live in a shack at the back of my mom's house, but God keeps reminding me, Garabo, your conditions are like 5-star in comparison to some of the early church. If anything, they're 5-star in comparison to when I was here. For foxes had dens, and you get my point, that scripture, but the Son of Man had nowhere to lay his head at night. You cry about not having the preference of food that you want to eat, but goodness, you have meals, however many of them you want per day, really 3, 4, 5. If you want to eat 5 times a day, you can. You don't struggle with clean water, clean running water that is trustworthy. There are people who literally are facing the prospect of cholera every time they go and drink water. You are essentially spoiled. On top of that, you have a vehicle like that operates. Most of the world does not own a car. Like, y'all need to understand, we are spoiled in the 21st century. That's why when I was listening to that skit, Melissa Doherty, I felt so silly. I felt like, whoa, and here it is, I'm calling myself a persecuted Christian. If you were to see some of the persecution of the early church, you would get humble. And on top of that, if you were to see some of the lifestyles of very humble condition Christians all across the world, you would realize just how spoiled you are when you want to go to a mega church that has got certain seating in it with certain ventilation, air con, when you want to when you've got a Bible app on your phone, when you've got internet at all. Like, it's a miracle that I even have access to the internet. When you have got like an ability to be able to complain futhi about the rubbish that is being preached on social media because you have access to it. That's the thing. That's just the thing, right? We are spoiled as the 21st century church, and we don't realize that God is the same today, tomorrow, and forever. Forever. Do you understand? Meaning that what he expects of the church is exactly the same as he expected of the church, back then. And if at all your piety does not compare to that of those men and women, you likely are in a lot of trouble. If you just expect God to give you like comfort, if you expect God to give you that husband, that car, that job, whoa, where is that in the scriptures? Like, you win some, you lose some. It is guaranteed that you're going to be persecuted. But some people are also told that they're going to die for their faith rather than get deliverance or breakthrough. Indeed, there are wealthy men and women that have existed in the scriptures, but God did not guarantee wealth to everybody, or even middle income status to everybody. I come from the middle class, and I am still having my entitlement uprooted out of me 8 years after losing everything. I'm still upset at the fact that my family members treat me like trash, when some people in very hostile nations I get that hate the gospel, like Iran. When they turn to Jesus, they can't even evangelize their family members with any relative ease. They have to literally live in hiding. Do you understand? And when then their family members find out and they want to kill them, they take it in their stride because apparently they have become an infidel against Allah. And so whatever is going to come at them, they take it. Their hearts are broken. Yes, family members are treating me like trash, but it's kind of expected. I am still creasing my forehead with a whole bunch of attitude on some, but you're my this. Why are you treating me like that? There are people who just expect to get treated like that when they convert to Christianity. So entitlement has no room in the kingdom of heaven. And it is precisely because of feelings of entitlement that then we are lured towards doctrines of demons. Do you understand? I am sitting here having come from a middle income lifestyle that was headed towards likely very wealthy, and I was just stopped dead in my tracks. Persecution slapped my life because of memory of what I come from. Part of it is still oozing off me. Okay, people are then successfully, or rather they are trying to tempt me with they are trying to tempt me with the life that I lost. They're trying to tempt me by bringing a man, any man, into my life, because apparently, allegedly, we need men in order to feel complete as women. I don't know. They're trying to make me fall pregnant. There's just so many things that I keep on getting in dreams, like in terms of what is the attempt against my trajectory, the thing that I'm doing in Jesus. And it's all very disturbing to watch this stuff. Ne? Kodwa, I realize that South Africans, and anyone at all that feels like they can come at me with a whip and crack it are doing that because of the cushy life that a 21st century middle income child growing up in a household had. They are literally grabbing the history that I have, the memory of the times I've endured or gone through, and they are shoving them down my throat. The early church, many of them couldn't read. They had to have the scriptures read, told them. The 1, 2, 3 people in the room that could read read them the scriptures. And even then, the whole Bible was not yet collated. It happened only much later that the 66 books were eventually put together. So the fact that I feel sick and tired of having gone to creche primary school, high school, university, and also acquired knowledge in corporate South Africa. The fact that I feel like, but how do I gather all that information and then find myself unemployed? It's like the early church, some couldn't even read. You have access to an entire Bible and you haven't even read it from cover to cover. I admit I haven't read all from Genesis to Revelation. I have got it at my disposal. Do you understand? And yet I am feeling entitled to be respected because I went to primary school, I went to creche, I went to high school, I went to varsity, and I went and I said, what is this? I also gathered knowledge in corporate. The Lord does not look at stuff like that. Yes, the Lord cares to give us a reasonable, feasible life in the ecosystem, environment, and time and history that we live in, but we ought not feel entitled to any of it. Therefore, it is the feeling of entitlement that causes people to eventually capitulate to consulting randoms, consulting sangoma, consulting your spiritists, your mediums, because obadi lemos. So you deserve a job, and as a result, then you go on right ahead for the life of you to say, if God won't give me umsebenzi since ngifundeka buhlungu kangaka esikolweni, then I'm gonna go and get it, because what a waste of my education, what a waste of sitting out those lectures at Wits University would be me just gathering dust all these years. The old church couldn't even read. God is not a respecter of persons. Next part.